Hello and welcome to Deepwater Outdoors. My name is John and welcome to the first episode of Is It Actually Camp Food, where I test recipes for camping to see if they're backpacking, campsite food, or if it's just stuff you shouldn't bring at all. So grab a coffee, grab a snack, and let's get going. All right, for today's episode, we are going to be doing a kielbasa hash that's supposed to be done over the campfire. Unfortunately, right now, it's middle of March in Ontario, and if anyone's familiar right now, we've been getting more rainfall than ever. We're just getting rid of the snow, so it wasn't feasible today to get it out on the campfire, but we're going to try and make it here in the kitchen. So this recipe is super simple. Essentially, it's 4 main ingredients. It's kielbasa, it's potatoes, corn, and peppers. Super simple. Now, realistically, the way this recipe is set up right now, it's going to be a campsite meal. And the reason why I say that is your kielbasa is not going to stay very good for very long in your backpack, especially if it's in the summer. If it's the wintertime, it's a different story. You can do that. Weight-wise, overall, it's not bad. You've got 4 potatoes, a can of corn, your kielbasa. It's not a crazy heavy meal. If you're backpacking into the mountains or doing a hunting trip out into the middle of nowhere, I probably wouldn't suggest it. It's just gonna bog down your bag. If you're just doing a single overnighter to backpack, or if you're at a provincial park or if you're at a trailer park, this is gonna be a great episode. So the ingredients real quick, we've got vegetable oil, potatoes, salt. We've got yellow onions, kielbasa. We've got minced garlic. It calls for jalapeno peppers. I'm not a fan of jalapenos, so I'm gonna swap those out for a bell pepper. We got a can of corn, and I couldn't find any green chilies. It does call for green chilies, but I couldn't find any. So we're gonna get rid of that for this episode. Let's get everything chopped up here and get into the pan. So I'm gonna try and do this in one pan. That's what the recipe calls for. And honestly, if I'm out in the forest and I just bring a single pan, that's what determines if it's gonna be a backpack meal or not. But again, what you can do if you are gonna be backpacking, you could swap the kielbasa out for like a dry cured meat, like a salami or a summer sausage or anything like that. But let's get everything cut up here. All right, so we got our cutting board. First thing first, we are gonna wash these potatoes real quick. All right, we got our potatoes. Let's get these guys cut up. Now you do want these into a hash brown sized cube. So you do want them pretty small. Now you can remove the skin if you want. I personally prefer to have the skin on them, but if that's what you prefer, then it's your hash. You can do what you want with it. Now these are russet potatoes. I would use a russet. I find they just fry up a little bit better. You could use yellow potatoes too if you want, or red. No, so you can use whatever potatoes your little heart desires. Now this recipe is from iamhomesteader.com, which I will leave a link in the description for it as well. All right, we've got our potatoes cut up. Let's move on to our onion here. This recipe calls for 1 large onion. We're gonna be rocking 2 small ones because that's what I've got. Now you can chop these how you prefer. I personally prefer larger pieces of onion. That is my personal preference. But again, another good thing about this recipe is that a lot of these ingredients can be brought in a backpack if you wanted to do that. And again, just swap out the kielbasa with a cured meat. Yeah, stick with the kielbasa. If you can keep it cold, you can do whatever your little heart desires. If you want to change this up, and you could even turn this into a breakfast recipe if you wanted to add eggs or even bacon to it. Now, when you get a kielbasa, one thing to always check out is to see if you need to peel the skin off the kielbasa. There is a lot of places in the world where either you can eat the skin, but there's also a lot of places where you have to remove the skin. So that is just something always to remember because you don't want to get into it and find out that you weren't supposed to eat it. So this is a huge kielbasa. I'm going to use half of it, and then I'm going to save the other half. Let's get rid of the skin here quick. And let's get this cut up into cubes. All right, we got everything cut up here. Let's get the pan going. All right, so it calls for a medium heat, so that's what we're gonna go with here. Gonna give that pan a couple of minutes to warm up and get some oil going. Now the recipe does call for vegetable oil, so that is what we're using here. It's calling for about maybe a little bit. It was calling for just over I think it was a tablespoon. So let's try that out. Get that oil all spread around the pan. That way we got nothing that's gonna be sticking to it. Okay, we'll give that a couple minutes to get to heat it up, and then we'll add our potatoes in. All right, our pan is hot. Let's get those bad boys in there. Just give them a bit of a toss here, just so we can get them all covered in oil. And the reason why I'm using the cast iron is because that's what I would use if I was at a campsite. Which, honestly, the cast iron's great. As long as you can have it, like you can put it right in the bonfire. It is heavy, so like if it was a backpacking trip, I wouldn't bring this. It does work great for if you do have a campfire going. So that's spread out. Let's give that a couple of minutes here. And we're just gonna grab some seasoning salt. All right, so we got all that put in here. We're gonna throw some seasoning salt in there as well. And that's gonna take about 15 minutes to get cooked up there. All right, we're gonna do a quick swap out of the cast iron pan. Something on it was causing my apartment to try and catch on fire. And it was a little smoky, so we swapped it for a conventional pan, and I'm gonna have to see what stuck to the bottom of that bad boy, because that's less than ideal. All right, potatoes are coming along. Because I did chunkier cubes, it did take a little bit longer than what it says in the recipe. The recipe says 10 to 15 minutes. I'm probably gonna be about 25 to get all these cooked, but they're coming along real good. All right, our potatoes are all finished up here, so we're gonna get them into a separate pot after I dump them everywhere. But let's get a touch more oil into the pan here, and let's get our peppers and onions in there. And we're gonna give these guys about 5 minutes or so. And while our onions and peppers are in there, we are gonna add our kielbasa. Add just a little bit of garlic plus to those, just to give it a bit of a kick. It smells absolutely delicious, I will say that. All right, let's get our can opener here, and let's get our can of corn going. Uh-oh. All right, let's get the can of corn going here after I've already dropped it once. And we will now add our 1 can of corn. 1 can of corn has been drained. Let's get that in there, give that a couple more minutes. Getting all yummy. And then we are gonna add those potatoes back in. And give this a good mix, get everything all combined. Potatoes warm back up. Kind of finish off these onions a little bit. All right, it is smelling fantastic right now. Let's get this out into a plate and try it out. That looks absolutely delicious. Soft onions, the kielbasa, the potatoes. This is gonna be bomb. All right, let's give this a little taste test here, see how she is. Now I will say that is delicious looking. I can definitely see this would be a delicious backpacking meal, but let me just try this first. Yeah, oh yeah. Hot. Oh, it's actually phenomenal. Now we're gonna rate this. Would I say this is a backpack meal? Yes and no, it's in the middle. If you swapped out your kielbasa for summer sausage, you could make it work, especially if you're just doing like a single overnight, you could definitely make it work. So backpacking meal, I'm gonna give it like a 5 out of 10 in around there. You could definitely just make this in the campfire. It was all made in one pan. For a campsite meal, this is a 10 out of 10. You can easily make this in one pan. I tried to use my cast iron, but I almost burnt my house down. You could do this in a cast iron pan very easily in a fire pit. It would take a little bit of fire managing just because the potatoes do take a little bit longer, but you could definitely, this would be like a 10 out of 10 easily for a campsite meal. And again, for a trailer park or anything like that, where you've got full cooking facilities inside your trailer, 100%, this is the one. It's a really solid blend of like, you got like the flavor, like the freshness of like the peppers in there. The onions have an unreal taste. The kielbasa has like a smoky taste to it. Well, thank you for watching. I hope this was helpful in planning out one of your future trips and giving you some ideas. If you did like this episode, make sure you do follow and like and subscribe. You know, the usual stuff. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this, and we'll see you in the next episode. Thanks for watching.